Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 6 of Rooted in Riv. I am your host, Eric Pacheco, and on today's episode, I will be joined by someone who is one of my favorite conversations to have, one of my favorite people to interview in the journalism world, and that is RCC head baseball coach Rudy Arguelles. I spent the past 2 years covering the Riverside City College baseball team as the editor in chief of the RCC school newspaper Viewpoints. And in that time, covering the baseball team have to be some of my fondest memories. Going to games, traveling to cover this team, as I really tried to be the team's beat writer, although that wasn't my technical title. A large part of that success and fun was because of Rudy and his accessibility in allowing me to cover his team to the full extent. There was nothing he would ever say no to when I asked for, and he's just all around a stand-up guy, and I'm very excited to have him on the podcast today. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'm pleased to be joined now by the skipper of the Riverside City College baseball team, head coach Rudy Arguelles. Rudy, always a pleasure to have you on, my man.
Oh, Eric, man, I can't tell you how appreciative I am of the work you put in, the commitment to it, the exposure that you bring, not only to Riverside City College, but the professionalism you bring, to with your approach. You know what I mean? It's aspiring, it's refreshing. So any chance I get to do anything with you, I'm all in. So I appreciate you.
Right, as always, I appreciate you as well for giving me the platform to do this as well. And like you said at the top before we got started here, it's a busy time of year. Opening day just a couple of days away. It's an exciting time of year, I imagine. What are your just overall thoughts and feelings as you guys get set to, kick the season off in a couple of days against an always tough Cuesta College team?
You know, man, time goes by, the feelings of, getting ready and getting closer to an opening day, they don't change. You start to see tendencies and traits that take place where it kind of gives you a pretty good feel of, hey, what to expect, what we got to continue to work on and get better at, things of that nature. I mean, that just means I'm old, my man. I mean, I'm 1 year away from taking advantage of senior citizen discounts, you know what I mean? So, but no, in all honesty, we're excited. Not only me, but the staff is excited. We believe that the club shares the same sentiments of excitement. I think we're going to be pretty deep. Um, I think we're going to pitch as always. It's a staple with Riverside City College. We gotta clean some things up defensively. I think we got a chance to be really offensive, an offensive club that kind of matches, the 22 club. That's kind of been the comparison, with a little bit more depth, if that's even possible, if that makes any sense. I don't know if we'll have the highlighted couple players, on that club that we had. What a strong role surrounded by Nacho and Bardwell on the offensive side, right? What they brought to the table, a tremendous amount of consistency, but we think we have a bit more depth with this club, that we could plug in 1 through 9. So we're excited. We're excited to see what goes on. If I had to do an evaluation and assessment of the overall fall, competing against opponents, did really well. Did really well against the 4-year clubs as well. Had opportunities to respond, and we showed response, which is good. We just finished up our last official scrimmage with Cal Poly Pomona, and I'll say, you know, as a coach, you're never going to be satisfied, right? There's always things to work on and improve on, get better at, from an individual standpoint and from a team aspect. But I think we're ready to go. I think we're ready to start the season.
Mhm. I want to dive into a bit of the roster construction here. You got a decent amount of returners coming back on offense. You talked about the offense there. Bubba Heidler, Logan Clear, who was a preseason All-American. Um, just to name a few, as long as going on with that pitching rotation. But tell me more about, some of the guys people may not know about yet, maybe some newcomers or some guys who didn't get too much action last season.
Yeah, this one here I think has a chance to open up some eyes, and he's piqued some interest in the fall. He's a returner. Quiet, he kind of goes about his job quietly, and I tabbed him as like, what our three pillars are, right? The human being, the student, and then it's the ball player, the athlete, and with him, I mean, he encompasses and embraces all three. And if I have to describe him completely outside of him being a baseball player, just a tremendous, tremendous human being. And that's Luke Madur. I think he's gonna open up some eyes. I think he's gonna be a staple of consistency in the offensive side. You talk about tremendous growth. He's in the top five of my 28 years of being around all the players that have come to RCC and transferred out to the higher levels. He's in the top five as far as just complete development and growth, man, in all areas. Proud of him. We're proud of all our players, but for him, I really think he's going to open up some eyes and is going to have a really solid season. Another one, newcomer, but he redshirted last year, bounced back from Cal State Northridge is Johnny Alley. Luke doing it from the right side, Johnny doing it from the left side, both holding down positions in the outfield. And I think they're going to open up some eyes. Heidler's staple. We expect him to be, not only perform on the field, but continue to develop some leadership skills. It's something new for him. He's not comfortable with those types of things, but he's shown flashes of it. Logan Clear is just get after it. Just get after it. Play free, be aggressive, be relentless, be that dang pest on the base pass in the box, run plays down, throw runners out, things of that nature that he showed that he was capable of doing last year, and we expect him to continue with that. We got some newcomers, Luis Sosa, from he's a bounce back from Georgetown, NAIA school, other side of the country, but he's a Chula Vista kid. He's got that innate little toughness in him, you know what I mean? He's got a high baseball IQ. He plays with a motor. I think he's going to bring some excitement and play a big role as well. We got some newcomers from the left side, and Aiden Erlinson and Noah Haros. I think they got a chance to bring some offense and some power, to this lineup that hasn't been prevalent in the last couple of years. They're going to be some run producers and probably be in the middle of that lineup as well. They're going to open up some eyes, I believe. And then we got another newcomer, a late newcomer, won't be available until the fourth week of game 10, and that's Grant Gray, bouncing back from UCLA. And again, getting his feet wet, and you see the hesitation of players of like, hey, what this does, kind of get through that stage and understand it's just another piece of the puzzle that's coming in, and has a chance to really solidify and make this roster even more competitive. You know what I mean? So it's always been about competition here. It always will be. There's nothing given. Everything is earned. It's part of our culture. It's the dirty riv.
Mhm.
And I think now the point where we're at, everyone is recognizing that and embracing that. And I think it's an exciting time because they're ready to go. And that's from the positional side, and there's going to be some others. Josh Hartman behind the dish, which is going to be critical because I think our pitching staff is probably the deepest we've ever had, which is kind of scary to say. We've had some really, really quality arms and staffs come through this place. So, I mean, it's exciting. I can go down this roster. We're excited about it. You know what I mean? can't wait for Friday to get here.
Before I jump into that rotation you just named, having Grant on the team, what's that experience been like thus far? And, how excited are you to get that opportunity to coach him this year?
You know, I've coached him his whole life. You know, again, it's a tough scenario, but it's not a road that I've not experienced, you know. My middle son, Ponce, played here. I think I've shared that story with you
Right.
and the guys when the transition took place, when Dennis stepped down and I was put into the role I'm holding now. Ponce came and played for us here at Riverside City College, and I still say the culture change and what the culture is now from a family, understanding blue collar work ethic, um, competing, being relentless, all the staple pieces that we attach to our culture here. Um, I think he was the critical piece that year when he came and played for us to where those players said, holy cow, man, this guy isn't about words. He's about action, and it really truly is who he is. And when I say, hey, you're part of this and you got Riverside across your chest, you're a Tiger for life. And I approach these guys as if they're my own flesh and blood sons. That's how I coach them. That's how I teach them. That's how I mentor them. That's the leadership I try to bring for their guidance with their development and growth. And that club right there got to see it firsthand when Ponce came. Was it easy? No. And he'll tell you it wasn't easy. And I tease that, hey, I probably forced him out of the game. But he's a medic firefighter in Anaheim, beyond successful, you know what I mean? Married to my daughter-in-law Julia and have our grandson Jet, you know what I mean? So life is good. He is successful. And again, those things that he learned with his time and his experience that he brought here, that he garnered, hey, he's doing it in as a first responder, you know what I mean? And tremendous respect. So I got a little trial run there. G's the youngest of the three boys, obviously open up. It's a quite different environment and
Right.
team aspect as far as the club he's coming from, because I mean, UCLA being one of the front runners this year, they'll probably be disappointed if they're not in that national championship game and having the opportunity to host that national championship trophy. You know what I mean? They are that good.
Mhm.
So to do that and then to come here, but again, we always say it's those players that bounce back and have that type of perspective and kind of sleep on Cali JC, the Orange Empire, the quality uh, of competition, the quality of talent and players that exist here at this level, they're going to struggle. I don't think he's going to struggle. I don't think he'll take that type of approach. Um, he's got to be excited, as far as having the opportunity. And I'm excited as well.
Absolutely. And jumping in deeper into that rotation, it's rare you get three, solidified horses coming back with Jorge Rodriguez, all first team OEC last year, Jake Valenzuela, the pitcher of the year in the OEC, and then one I want to dive a little bit deeper into, Ryan Jenkins. I mean, what an interesting story, right? Started at RCC 2 years ago in 24, transferred out, redshirted, and now he's back. Can you try to talk a little bit more about Ryan and that kind of experience that he had?
Yeah, with Ryan, and a lot of people don't know, he got hurt the end of that year, and I really felt he was hurt the last part of the year, his last start, against Cyprus, which probably was the roughest outing he experienced, that whole year there. Um, and then he tried to get healthy, and obviously he missed the first round of the playoffs because of the injury. I think he I think he kind of rushed coming back. When we got to the super regionals down at Cerritos that year, they hosted. Um, and had a chance to sign his freshman year and felt it was the fit right with going to St. Mary's and Eric Valenzuela and his staff down there. Um, Sent him to the Cape, and again, I don't think he was honest, and I think it's a lesson learned from him. He wasn't healthy when he went there either.
Mm.
And trying to push through. I mean, you admire players, hey, I'm gonna push through an injury. I still want to compete, you know. Um, but there's sometimes we got to listen to that body and get fully healthy because it can contribute to other things, right? And I think that's the scenario and situation that took place with Ryan, where he never got fully healthy, and when he showed up to campus at St. Mary's, um, was dealing with injury, you know, through that fall process, and really never got on track, you know, to be able to compete. So it was a frustrating time for him because what a competitor he is, you know. Um, and again, it worked out for the Tigers in a sense to where, hey, opportunity to go into the portal. No one bit, you know what I mean? But still had the opportunity to come back here and had a year of eligibility from the JC side. So it was like, you know, okay, hey, it makes the most sense to go back home to Tigerland, you know what I mean? And
Mm.
we're excited. He should be excited again, year under his belt with the success that he experienced. I thought he would have been pitcher of the year if if that last outing against Cyprus, you know, definitely in contention, you know. Um, so to be able to have a couple arms available as those arms that you mentioned, you know, and there's some sleepers here, Eric, that are going to be pushing these guys. You know, they performed, they put themselves in position. And again, that's probably why we're so excited about them, you know, to get ready, compete, and, you know, start calculating and tallying up them innings.
Right. I remember you said it earlier, this has the opportunity to be one of those, better staffs, maybe the best staff, in school history. I recall, last year around this time, you and I were sitting up in the press box overlooking the field, and you told me the same thing about 25 squad. And I mean, to be fair, they kind of lived up to that notion. Three first team all conference guys, one second team all conference guys, those four big horses that you guys had. And then like I mentioned, those two guys coming back, Jake V and Jorge Rodriguez, two early commits as well. Jake with Washington State and Jorge with UCSD. But those guys that you mentioned that are going to push them, can you kind of go into those guys and talk about them a little bit?
100%. You know, I think the biggest sleeper with the returner coming in that didn't get the recognition, and again dealt with a TJ situation surgery in high school, you know. So again, with those, the timelines are different. It's more of, hey, we can get them ready physically to perform, but it's the mental hurdle is the last step for usually those players, those pitchers that have to deal with it. You know what I mean? And we feel, David feels that Jack Wheaton is ready to take that next leap. I think he's going to open up some eyes. I don't think he's going to be unsigned here for very long. Matter of fact, I talked to a recruiter last night and told him, hey, I'll be very surprised if he's still unavailable and unsigned and uncommitted after his first two outings. And again, that's putting it out there. It's
Right.
public, but that's the conviction I feel Jack Wheaton is ready to make in the step he's gonna take and what he's gonna be able to do and show and display this year. But Jack Wheaton, you know, 6'6", you know what I mean? Uber athletic, basketball player as well. Finally taking that mental hurdle. The slider is just straight filthy. It's a swing and miss, legitimate swing and miss pitch. You know, the ticks continue to climb. And we believe there's tremendous amount of more ticks still in there. You know what I mean? But we think Jack's gonna be one of those guys. And a matter of fact, yesterday Dave named him as the starter for game two down at the Cuesta series. Jake will start game one. We haven't named a starter for game three. We're
Mhm.
playing a double header on Saturday, which is unusual for us, you know. Um, but again, Jorge's going to be an option. Jenkins will be an option. And then we have two additional options where um, we think are incredibly viable and deserving to be in those positions. And we feel, hey, we're blessed to have these types of problems and these types of decisions, right? And another one is a bounce back from St. Mary's, and that's Jaden McNeely. You know, we've got two lefties on the staff. He's one of the lefties, and I mean, this kid is every bit of, he's just a pitcher. It's just a pitcher. He's competitive. He throws every single pitch for a strike. You know, he knows when to expand, when to throw certain pitches. He can go change up 0-0. He can go change up 3-2. He can bounce that secondary breaking ball in there, come with the heater, allow it to play up because of the command of his secondary pitches. I mean, he's good, man. He's going to open up some eyes, for
Mhm.
sure. And then we got a freshman, Max Mora from La Quinta High School down in the desert area, which has always been good for us, right? But Max, another big statured kid, 6'4", 6'5", freshman coming in. He's just starting to scratch the surface of what his true potential is going to be, man. But again, another high percentage strike thrower, you know, to allow the secondary stuff to come into play. But you know, right now, those six have put themselves in position to where we name starter, we feel 100% confidence that they're going to give us quality.
Mhm. Absolutely. Kind of shifting gears away from the roster to the coaching staff. One thing that I've always found unique these past couple of seasons when I got the opportunity to cover you guys, that you always have a young kind of maybe recently just stopped playing coach on the staff, right? Last year it was Christian Kirtley who, talking with the guys, they really gravitated towards him. This year it's a RCC alum, state champion alum with Julian Rafa Alvarez. What kind of impact are you trying to bring to the team, and what kind of impact do those guys have, young coaches who just stopped playing, being on the staff and being around the guys?
Yeah, you know, you mentioned started it with, you know, with CK, with Kirtley, you know what I mean? And again, um, vital have that youth, that energy, right? Guys that can not only understand it, they're learning to speak and communicate in a different manner because the player communication is different, right? And they're starting to understand that, get their feet wet. They're going to get better at that. Um, CK had it, but more importantly, those guys can still demonstrate, right? Like they are fresh. It's not only, hey, I can talk it, I can work you through it, I can identify things when it comes to moves and positions and whatnot, but they can demonstrate it. You know what I mean? And again, valuable because we're CK. He's back to his hometown of UC Santa Barbara on their coaching staff, right? So um opened up an opportunity to bring another staff member in. And this is something that from the very beginning, I mean, it was established when Dennis was here and put this program in position to what it is known for now, right? Because let's face it, you say Riverside City College, the first face you probably think of is Dennis Rogers. But
Mhm.
you know, it was unique in a sense to where not only developed players, but put the development and time with the coaching staff as well. And with him, his long vision was at some point in time, the turnover rate was going to be the players coming into coaching, transitioning into coaching positions. You know what I mean? And he did it for years. I mean, product of it. You know what I mean? Randy Batten. You know what I mean? Gary Adcock. We can go down the list, right, of those coaches that were players. And again, that was always a goal for us. And again, I'll say time has gone by. It just means I'm getting older, Eric. Um, those players now are starting to be in position now to be able to get into the coaching aspect and world and profession, right? And Rafa's there. What a blessing. What a turnaround. Again, we talk about tremendous growth. I mean, The man has 2 degrees in hand, graduating from Cal Baptist. He's got his undergrad and he's got his graduate degrees in hand. Um, Holds another job. It's tough here because the budget and money is tight, as you know, right?
Right.
And again, it's can you get them to embrace what the profession entails, right? It's going to be about sacrifice. You're never going to be compensated for the time committed to it, right? And these are parts outside of what you can bring to the table to the players from a game aspect. And Rafa embraces that. And what a breath of fresh air this this guy has been for us, right? And again, he's like one of my sons. So not only do I got, G here and the rest of the roster, I truly do mean it when I say I look at him in that manner, but I have one of my sons coming back and he
Right.
knows what the culture is. He knows what the environment's going to be like. He knows what the demands are. He knows what the expectations are. You know what I mean? He knows it in and out. So what an asset to be able to bring somebody in like that. And um what an opportunity for him, right? Because he's going to have that platform. I give him that platform, to continue their growth in that area. And I think he's going to be really successful. I mean, we kid around, because on the defensive side, he works with them outfielders and boy, he takes them through a rigor. He takes them through the rigor daily. Um, but you talk about respect and appreciation, you see it there.
Hmm. We talked about the, roster player construction, talked a little bit right there about staff construction. Overall, year after year, like we've talked about many times, RCC is one of those premier programs in Cali JUCO. I mean, what are like some of the biggest things that you look at to try and, sustain success over a long period of time, whether that's, academically transferring players and then ultimately, winning ball games on the field.
Well, I think you hit it on the head. The sustainability, equates to or is equivalent to consistency. And how do we create that, right? How do we sustain that? And with that, it starts with the staff. Uh, Very low turnover rate, right? And there's consistency there. So with that, the consistency stays with that culture, that environment. Um, you know what to expect. The players come in. We know the verbiage. We know each other's tendencies and behaviors, right? So that makes it nice, and I believe it helps with the transition and the acquisition of players when they come in, to get acclimated and assimilated, understand what is to be expected. And some it takes longer than others. We've had many a talk of that nature as well, but I believe it's that allows me um, specifically to develop that relationship with them, right? And again, there's different timelines for each player, but it's once that player understands and has the trust that not only me, but the staff has their best interest not only at hand, but more importantly at heart, that's when the magic takes off. You know what I mean? That's truly when the magic takes off. And it's a bit easier when the staff is consistent, right? And they know what to expect. So not only have we been able to sustain consistency on the field, the product on the field with the players, and again, matriculating them and transferring them, preparing them, developing them, and getting them ready for the next levels, whether it be collegiately or professionally, I think stems from that consistency and that sustainability that we've been able to obtain and achieve from our staff standpoint. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, and then again, it's the pillars. We can't just be about the words and getting them. What are we doing, with the action to match, to provide them with the resources that they need to be successful? And again, I alluded to it earlier here with this session. it's about the three pillars. You know what I mean? You've been around this culture, you've been around these rosters, these players. They love to mimic me. You know what I mean? They love to mimic me and tease me, and because I talk with my hands and my decibels will go up because I'm passionate and I want to make sure they understand the importance of the message and I want the best for them. And again, it's going to be daily. It's going to be every day that they're going to be challenged. They're going to be provided with the resources. They're going to be reminded what they should be doing and need to be doing. And like, hey man, we hear you, we hear you. I'm glad you're going to hear me again because we want to make sure they understand it wholeheartedly and 100% because it's not just about embracing those things and making them part of their fabric makeup for the baseball field. It's for that classroom, and again, it's for society and the communities they're going to be involved with. You know what I mean? When they have the opportunity to start their own families, or Mr. Baseball knocks on the door and says, no longer render your services. Thank you for everything you committed to. Utmost respect to you. You did it the right way, but hey, services are no longer rendered. And then, okay, what's the second part? And they're going to be ultra prepared and ready to take on any task, right? So the human being pillar, I'm giving them messages every day that's going to correlate with life or what the game's bringing to them, or maybe a player on the roster is dealing with some certain things, and we bring some attention to it, to how to deal, how to cope, how to understand, and then again, we'll never be relentless on this. It's, in the moment and where your 2 feet are, not only at Riverside City College, but you're at the collegiate level. And therefore, it is a reason why it's student slash before that athlete. So again, regardless if you can connect, you can understand the educational standpoint, you like it, we don't care. You've committed to this, and this is the level you're at. So therefore, hey, resources are going to be provided for you. Yes, there is study table time, and it's mandated, the hours. And again, I think with that process that we provided, I mean, last 10 years, calculating anywhere from 40 to 48 guys, that team GPA has been anywhere from 3.1 to a 3.5, calculating that amount of numbers and student athletes. So we believe proof is in the pudding, right? And then again, harping on those two pillars, providing for those two pillars to understand and continue the growth and give them practices, so that they can try to achieve and wake up with a purpose each and every day. We just truly feel that the ball player happens by default because they're clear. Decisions are being made in a quality fashion. You know what I mean? And are they perfect? No, no one is. But are we truly open to, hey, when a poor decision's made, can we learn from it? When mistakes are made, can we learn from them? How do we learn from them? They're expected. You know what I mean? But that's where, a lot of growth will take place and happen. So it's not science, Eric. I don't believe it's science. You know what I mean? But from a staff standpoint and from my position, it's like, do you have the guts to stand by it? Right? Do you have the dignity and commitment to stand by it? There's a lot of coaches, and again, not with age, because I was completely different when I was younger, man, your best player, messed up, and you want to cover up for him because you don't want to lose that talent on the field. But again, are you doing them justice? Are you truly doing them justice? You know what I mean? So again, it's the expectations and the demands are what they are. That's what makes your culture. What are you going to accept? What are you going to turn your back on? Or are you going to uphold it? And it doesn't matter if it's the number one prospect on your roster or if it's the last guy that made the roster. You know what I mean? Everyone is approached the same and everyone is upheld to the same standards. Do you have the ability? Do you have the guts to make that happen and stick? And if you do, we believe that's why the culture is the culture.
Absolutely. I mean, what a great message right there by you as always. Kind of next question I want to get into, you talked about that culture, that consistency, what you build this program off of. You've had a lot of great, talented teams in the past. What I want to get into is what is that maybe slight difference in a team like that 2022 team? I saw a couple months ago, you guys all, a great group of you got together for dinner or lunch. I don't know what it was, but you guys got together again. What's the difference between a team like that, a team that reaches the pinnacle and gets it done, to a team that maybe just falls short, where, maybe the talent level is, very similar. What is those minor differences from a team that wins it all to a team that, ultimately falls short?
You know, man, the cohesiveness, right? And I think that 22 club, really unique in their cohesiveness, their relationships that they have. I mean, you saw the turnout there, and that wasn't put on by the staff, by the way. That was put on by them. You know,
Mm,
they did that, and put it together and showed up. Um, but again, any team to win a championship, I mean, it's about, the ability to execute at a high percentage in all facets, right? Um, sustain quality, whether it's on the offensive side, in that box, paying attention to the details and things of that nature with their preparation and practice. Like, you know, can you get them from just running the drill to absolute having a purpose so that there's value and carryover into the game? And again, that's a lot of mentality work. That's a lot of them understanding the mentality to change what they are, how they are in that preparation mode. You know what I mean? That 22 club had that, where it wasn't a lot of go through the motions. It was a lot of competition, man. And it could have been dailies. The infielders doing some daily work, and they were challenging, they were talking smack to each other. And again, they still do. A lot of them still come here and work out in the off season. And this club possesses some of that, and you're going to need that type of consistency and execution, if you're looking to be in contention for a championship. But let's face it, every championship team from every level is also going to need some luck on the way. And I know there will be a lot of coaches out there, I don't rely on luck, but hey man, things have to bounce your way. And you can go to every championship team that's achieved that status, been able to hold it up at the end. You won the last game of the year. You're the last one standing. They could go back to moments, whether it's through the playoff run or regular season, to get them to the playoff run, where some unexpected went their way. You know what I mean? It went their way, whether the ball bounced their way or however term you want to come up with. It's necessary. It's
right.
necessary. But again, you can come across some coaches that will say, well, you create your own luck.
Mhm. You had the opportunity as a player to compete at the pinnacle of college baseball, right? The Division I national championship, being final two teams standing, you had a teammate
Mhm.
who is now a head coach as well here at Arizona State, and Willie Bloomquist. I remember the last time I talked to you on my podcast, you talked about how Dennis Rogers saw something in you to potentially be a coach before you kind of saw it in yourself. When you were teammates with Willie, did you kind of get that notion from him that, this guy possesses something bigger than just, his talent on the baseball field? He went on to have a successful Major League Baseball career. But did you see something in him, just being his teammate, to where you understood that this guy may have a career longer in baseball outside of just playing?
100%. And with Willie, he's a multi-sport athlete, coming out of the state of Washington. Um, Probably could have competed a bit with that football team, on the football side. And again, usually the majority of guys that our football baseball combo, man, they're gonna have an aggressive approach, an aggressive mentality. They're gonna be mentally tough, you know. And once I got to start working out, being on the same field, being in the weight room, training sessions, things of that nature with Willie, it was easy to identify with him with that freshman class that came in. And, you know, it was a talented class, but you know, he stood out with his approach and his work ethic. You talk about an ultra competitor. That was him on the diamond. You know what I mean? You knew you were going to get that no matter what. Every single pitch, there was going to be no let up. Body language was never an issue or to bring up, to work on, you know what I mean? Energy was high, understood the game, could play multi positions. And again, you get to the point where, you know, he reached the pinnacle, right? I want to say, and I could be wrong on this, but I think Bloomy had 14 years, I want to say, as a player in the big leagues, you know, and look at the multiple positions he was able to play and sustain, right? And you don't, not being an everyday player, being a utility guy, you know what I mean? You don't sustain that amount of years, especially at the pinnacle, if you don't bring something to the table, and especially in that clubhouse as well. And with that, that's the makeup of that player. So I think those things that I mentioned about him, you know, kind of exemplified and allowed him to have that type of extended career, which how many players across America would love to have that opportunity and that time in the big leagues that he was able to achieve and accomplish, right? And then for him to have the opportunity to come back to our alma mater. You know what I mean? What a dream come true. I think there's a ton of us that would love that opportunity to do so. And, you know, he's getting to live it. He's getting to live it. So he has tremendous support, you know, and I know that community's rallying behind him, and I think they're rallying behind the right guy, man. He needs to get him there, get him back.
Right. Yeah, that's what he was talking about in his press conference when he was extended, last week. Kind of finishing out here, you kind of mentioned it here and there throughout today. Overall, what does the Dirty Riv mean to you, to the team? What message are you trying to send when you say that phrase, that moniker? I kind of have my own definition that I've kind of built into my head over the past couple of years at my time at Riverside City College. But, you guys put it on t-shirts last year. I believe it was on your guys' state championship ring in 22. So what does that mean to RCC, and overall the city of Riverside, that phrase, the Dirty Riv?
Mm. So many meanings, you know, attached to Dirty Riv. We tease everybody because as soon as you say it, you know, we tease everybody, hey, get your mind out of the gutter. You know what I mean? Because it has nothing to do with anything attached to those types of thoughts. The Dirty Riv, um, it's emotional. Uh, there's a tremendous amount of pride attached to the Dirty Riv. It's it's really exemplifies Riverside City College baseball. We have continued to be successful. We have continued to produce, from matriculating our student athletes and moving them on to the next levels at the collegiate side of things, to the professional side of things. We continue to compete at a high level with our competition. We continue to produce regardless of the lack of support that we have here, in a sense of we are behind when it comes to our facilities.
Right.
Our playing surface is one of the poorest. We've been passed by basically everybody, not only in our area, everywhere. And it's disheartening, you know, to build what we've been able to build, to do what we've been able to continue to do, like I said, from a competitive standpoint and a production aspect of things. We're producing still, regardless of the lack of support and conditions of our facilities. We don't have all the amenities. We have all the resources necessary for our players to be successful in every facet they need to be, to be in a continuous growth and development state. We do have that. It's the bare minimum, but it's like, at what point in time will the above recognize and like, hey, man, it's almost like our own fault because we just take our initiative. The Dirty Riv takes the initiative. Okay, we're on our own, and we're not gonna feel sorry for ourselves. We're not, we will complain, because you have, if any change is gonna happen, again, that's part of it. We take the initiative upon our own. We've gotten to the point to where we understand they're not going to give us any help or assistance in improving those facility, which I still don't understand. You know, they love to utilize our numbers of matriculation and transfer, right? When it comes to those things, and utilize the numbers, or, hey, we need representation for the institution and we need student athletes, and they love to call and use our players, but yet they leave us behind when it comes to the facility aspect. And what a crazy thing, because it's a classroom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I
Yep.
know if the conditions were as poor as ours are down in our classroom there at Evans Sports Complex, Field A, up in a life science business building, the quad, you
Right.
know, um, it would be dealt with in an immediate fashion.
Mm.
Immediate fashion, right? So it's a little disheartening. Don't understand it, but it's never going to be a deterrent from us doing what we're supposed to do. And our players embrace it. There's a tremendous amount of pride in it. And
Right.
that's truly where the Dirty Riv has been derived. And that's how it's come about. It's it's the lack of that type of support, poor conditions, but yet, come on, we'll take anybody on. We'll compete with anybody.
Right. Want to share an excerpt that I wrote from my, I guess, farewell that I had to write last semester when I left Riverside City College. This was my definition of the dirty rib, if you don't mind if I share it.
Absolutely.
This is the final paragraph of the article. So I wrote, the dirty rib is a phrase the baseball team uses and a phrase I've seen used in the city of Riverside. And I think that phrase is deeper than something cool and catchy. I think the dirty rib exemplifies what it means to be hardworking, getting down and getting dirty to work for what you want. It's a phrase that shows that all members of RCC have that edge. RCC may not have the best facilities, the most funding, or the biggest campus, but it has the biggest thing of all, the best community. So I feel like, we kind of matched definitions there in a sense.
100%, man, send that to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? And again, that's from the heart. And again, I think that exemplifies who you are in your profession, Eric. You know what I mean? And you know how I feel about you. Um, and I think you're going to continue doing this and displaying this in Sun Devil land. You know what I mean? I think the future is tremendously, tremendously bright because your time being spent here and being around us, not one of us could have said it any better than what you just did. That's that is tremendously awesome, man. It's touching. Um, I'm glad you can't see my eyes because they're a little watery. This old man gets a little emotional now in my old age, because it is about passion. It is about love. And there's a tremendous, tremendous amount of pride in it. And with that, that means it's just been a boatload of time dedicated and committed to something that you love and you're passionate about. You know what I mean? And to see others, identify and connect to what you see and what you feel. That's what it's about.
Absolutely. I think that's what made, my job a lot more easier, definitely enjoyable. I mean, I loved going down, to the Evans Sports Complex and covering every single game for you guys and, being there and being around the team and, getting to know that, what that phrase meant and, what you guys' program is built off of. So as always, like I tell you all the time, I'm super appreciative of you and the support that you've given me along my journey and, allowing me to, um, man, you're getting me emotional now, coach. Just super appreciative of you and just, the platform that you gave me to allow me to do my job. And anytime I hope to have you on, I hope you're still willing as always. Best of luck as you guys get started this Friday with Cuesta. All love to Riverside. I'm going to be watching from however I can watch. But yeah, thank you once again, coach.
Thank you, my man. Love it. And just know this, everything that you're experiencing, everything that you're achieving, you're accomplishing, um, you deserve. You've earned it. You understand that, right? And those individuals that really embrace that and understand those components as you do, the road of trajectory is completely up. And I truly do mean this. I look forward to seeing your climb, man.
I appreciate it, coach, as always. Thank you once again for coming on today and have a good one. Have a good rest of your day.
You too, my man.
Thank you once again to my guest, RCC head baseball coach Rudy Arguelles, for jumping on the podcast today. As you see, as pure and authentic as it gets, and that's the motto of Riverside and Riverside City College. Make sure you follow Riverside City College Baseball on X and Instagram at baseball_RCC. Make sure you keep up with them as they embark on this 2026 season. And make sure you follow me on all my social media at Eric Pacheco ASU on X, at the Eric Pacheco on Instagram. And make sure you like and subscribe here on YouTube for more podcast episodes at Eric Pacheco Pod. Thank you. God bless and have a great day.